So here's a quick overview of the basic principles of how the Grand 2 works and how to set up your own programs. If you haven't used a Nord instrument before, you could be forgiven for being overwhelmed by the number of buttons and controls on the front panel. But to me, that's the beauty and the advantage of a Nord keyboard, that everything is available on hand to allow you complete control of the sound and functions when playing live. And there's minimal need to dive into the menus on the display screen. The panel is laid out intuitively, starting with the two sound generator sections on the left. One is for the piano and the other one is for the synth sounds. Now, each of the sound sections can produce two layers of sound, and each of the layers can be switched on and off independently using the two grey buttons within the section. The keyboard can be split so you can have different sounds in each of the upper and the lower sections, and as with most Nord keyboards, the split point can either be fixed rigidly at one note, or you can apply a crossfade so that there's a smooth transition between the upper and the lower sound layers. Each layer has its own volume slider and octave shift buttons, and the sustain pedal functionality can be switched on and off independently for each layer. These rotary encoders allow you to select the sound that's going to be applied to each layer, and then using the controls on the right you can apply effects to the selected layer. Each layer can have up to 5 individual effects, including 2 types of modulation, compression, amp simulator, EQ and delay, and there's also a master reverb to give that polished studio sound. Once you've perfected your sound, you can give it a name and save it as what's called a program using the red store button in the centre of the panel. There are 432 locations into which you can store your sounds, so there's ample room even for the busiest gigging musician. Nord has filled up about half of these with factory presets of popular sound combinations to get you started, but all of them can be overwritten with your own sounds. Having 4 independent layers of sound means you can really get creative with your own programming. So I've put together this quick patch that uses 4 layers and a keyboard split with a crossfade to give you an idea of what can be achieved with a very simple selection of sounds. So I'm just going to start off with a single piano sound on layer A of the piano section, and if I hold down shift and press unison, it tells me which piano sample I'm using, and I'm actually using the Yamaha C7 version 2. And this is actually my go-to piano sample when I use a Nord keyboard live on stage, because it's got a little bit of edge to it, but it's very, very warm and it sounds great through a PA system. So it's something like this. Now that's just the raw piano sound with no effects apart from just a little bit of reverb which I've got switched on there. Now what I like to do is to add a bit of EQ because it just brightens the sound, helps it cut through the mix a little bit, so just add a little bit of treble EQ there and you'll notice at the top a little bit brighter and more sparkly. So as you could hear, I've got the piano sound going across the whole keyboard. Now I'm going to switch on the first layer of the synth part, and at the moment the volume's down low, so let's just bring the volume up on that. And I've got a really beautiful string sound on there, and that's the new Spitfire string quintet, but it's the soft legato and it's absolutely lovely. So let's just play 2 notes, bring that sound in. That really is one of the very best string samples I've ever heard in any keyboard. Now, this new Spitfire string quintet was only released about a month ago by Nord, and if you check out, I've made another demo video which goes more in depth on those string sounds, so check it out because it really is fabulous to play. But I've got that layered with the piano voice, but what I've done is I've put a split point in, and I'm using the crossfade, so the strings are only in the lower half of the keyboard, but they gradually fade out and then the piano takes over at the top, and I find that just enables the piano to sing out a little bit better. So something like this. So I've also got a synth pad sound ready to go on layer 2 of the synth section. So if I press both of those together, it switches both layers on the synth section, and then I can bring the synth pad in as well. Just gives it a little bit more warmth. And then finally, I've got a digital piano sound on layer 2 of the piano section. Just turn off the synth section quickly and I'll bring up the volume of that digital piano sound. Great for playing sort of 80s ballad tunes, but really nice sound. Let's bring the synth pad back in.